Oh, are we live? Welcome to Look Around the Confederation. I'm your host for the Moose, and before we get started, please remember the views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the SCV, its GEC, nor a divisions, brigade, camps, or any of those subsidiaries, strictly those expressing them. How is everybody doing in Dixieland tonight? We have a great show for you planned where we continue our candidate interviews for national office. Tonight, we have candidate on for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Charles Lauret. I'm so happy after all these years I can pronounce his last name right, and I don't have to fear that he is going to come on the first 5 minutes of the show and tell me I'm wrong. That is just so happy for me. So how is everybody doing? We aren't going to be doing a lot of news tonight simply because we do have a guest on that has a lot to talk about. So for this is something we ran into last year. So for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief or Commander-in-Chief, we're going to give them as much time as possible. So in about 5 minutes, we're going to be getting started. I'm still sharing it out because that is the job of a good producer. Sometimes it can be a bit tedious, like when stuff doesn't want to load. That's always fun. But tonight we have a great show for you planned, and I can't wait to dive into everything. So as of right now, we are sharing everything out, and we will be getting started shortly. And I do want to point out the Commander-in-Chief is correct. Please keep J.C. Hannah, our Chief of Staff, National Chief of Staff, in your prayers. She's recovering from an infection, and keep praying. That's a great man right there, and I hope he will get out of this soon. So 1 second. I'm still trying to share at the same time, and that's usually my downfall in a lot of things. But I hope everybody is doing well tonight. I see that we have the Kentucky Division Commander. Yes, Moose Mania is running wild, even though my voice is giving out. That's great to start an interview off. I have to ask questions. I have 10 questions I have to... 11. 11 questions I have to get through. So let's hope my voice stays strong in that regard. But we're going to take a break from sharing. I do ask everybody, please share this out. No matter who you are supporting in this election, it is imperative that everybody gets all the facts from both candidates. So I do ask everybody to share this out. Bob, good to see you from Camp 1865. Of course, our Commander-in-Chief, Walter D. Donnie Kennedy. Past Commander-in-Chief, the most sharp-dressed man in the SCV. Past Commander-in-Chief, Paul Gramlin Jr. Dr. Sandy Mitchum in the chat. Johnny from Camp 632 in the chat, Missouri. And it wouldn't be a show without the Lone Ranger, Past Commander-in-Chief Chuck McMichael. Ron, good to see you from Camp 1824. Wes Franklin from Missouri, Camp 2327. Derek Glover, Camp 929 out of Tennessee. And Wilford Owens. It is good to see everybody. Well, I was going to, though, Charles, a curveball and do my questions in French. You're saying for him to do it in English and not answer in French. I honestly would pay to see that. I think that would be phenomenal. Maybe we can bring him on for a future episode, and he just has to speak in French the whole time. That's the challenge. Confuse the majority of our viewers, except for the ones that are overseas. We do have some people in Paris watching tonight, so how about that? Make that Southern English, yeah. Well, it is great to see everybody. I do have an announcement from our Commander-in-Chief about the SD Lee Institute for 2026 will be February 28th at Hilton. Ooh, Durham Airport, North Carolina. The speakers include Dr. Thomas DeLorenzo, Dr. Jeffrey Abcott, Past Chief of Heritage Operations Ron Kennedy, Commander-in-Chief Walter D. Donnie Kennedy, Master of Ceremonies will be Chief of Heritage Operations Paul C. Graham, and of course, Dr. Najova. So I can see Charles questioning that pronunciation. And the bad thing is I was really hoping to make this event so I could see her speak and talk to her. The man that saves the day. Juan Jura Joanne. This is what happens when you let a Mississippian do these announcements, Commander. This is what happens. But there is a stacked panel at the SD Lee Institute this year. I am heartbroken I'm not going to be able to make it again. I wanted to hear her speak for months now. And I'm just not going to be able to pull it together, sadly. I'd love to meet her, too. I follow her on Twitter, and she is just phenomenal. A great expert on our Southern heritage and culture. And so I'm going to be missing her. And again, these other great panelists and the world famous Kennedy twins will also be on there. So y'all have a stacked crowd. Please make sure to sign up as quickly as possible for the SD Lee Institute. It is a phenomenal event that educates not just our members, but everybody. You can take this information and go into the world, and it is so valuable. So make sure to register today at www.stevendleeinstitute.com. Make sure to sign up now. I will definitely do that, Dr. Mitchum. Hey, I love bringing guests on because they make me look good because I can just sit here and nod away. So, and of course, I get to learn so much. So please make sure to check that out. I believe it should be in here somewhere. I have a link saved somewhere. Let's see here. We're getting there. There it is. Again, I love the Institute. When I got to go, when it was held at Beauvoir a couple years ago, it was phenomenal. I had such a great time. You will not regret it. So please sign up today. The link is in the chat. All right, everybody. So it is now time to jump into our sponsorship and a commercial break because, as I said, we will be giving our guest tonight a lot of time because he has a lot of questions and a lot of very important topics to talk about. Of course, Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief is in charge of recruiting and retention for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And, of course, now more than ever, that is a very, very important task and position to have. So we want to give each candidate as much time as possible. So real quick, let me get everything set back up here. Of course, our Pop-Tart break our commercial break is sponsored by scvchat.com. If you want to go support us on scvchat.com, check out all these interviews. They'll be on the website as soon as we get done with them. And watch episodes live. Hit the support us tab. You get 15% off on a t-shirt if you sign in with $250. Do that, by the way. And so much more. Check SCV Chat out, scvchat.com. And of course, also check us out on Patreon, where you can help us reclaim the narrative 1 week at a time and keep us on the air. Don't y'all like us? Keep us on the air. For $2.50 a month, you can feed a moose tier. That is general support. Of course, you do get Connor's blogs and some behind-the-scenes stuff as well. For $10 a month, you get your name added at the end of every SCV Chat episode. And, of course, a lot of behind-the-scenes content, special stuff just for y'all, a special show, so much more. For $30 a month, you get exclusive SCV Chat merchandise that not even me and GCB get, the owners of SCV Chat. Also, for $8 a month, you can sponsor the show like these great people. Have you fallen off a fence recently? it's a general question. Have you fallen off a fence recently? Well, make sure to go check out Dr. Chris Cummins, MD in Oxford, Mississippi. He'll make you feel good. If you tweak your knee, he'll help you there too. And he'll treat you some great Southern hospitality and get you on your way. Make sure to also check out past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney's newest book, Paradox of Freedom, A History of Black Slaveholders in America. Secure a copy today at booksbylarry.com. That's booksbylarry.com. Of course, also check out 31st Regiment Engraving, where you can get all this beautiful merchandise. Those Jeff Davis earrings do look nice for your lady friend. But, of course, if you want something to honor your ancestors daily, and this is something I've been wanting for a while, and they were able to do this for me. I got this to always remember why I'm in the organization and why I do what I do. This is a memorial bracelet for my ancestor, Private S.O. Dawes, and it was provided to me by 31st Century 31st Regiment Engraving. You can check them out at www.31stregengraving.com. Now, of course, if you want some great Confederate merchandise that's historically accurate, you should check out Beauregard's Tailor. Beauregard Tailor is a family business driven proudly by offering authentic War Between the State reproductions, T-shirts, flags, pins, and so much more. I mean, so much more. I have so much stuff from them. I bless their heart. They probably hear from me every other month. So you can check them out at beauregardtailors.shop. And, of course, our lovely friends at the museum at Market Hall, home of the Confederate Museum since 1899. If the flag's out, we are open. Hours are Thursday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And, of course, they also have a great store. I have gotten a lot of great merchandise from them. And, of course, when things die down, I'm going to speaking of them, here they are. We were just doing y'all's ad break. When we get done with interviews and I kind of have an episode of Look Around, they did give me a birthday gift, which was extremely generous of them, and I want to show it off because it's a great T-shirt. If you know anything about me, I love War Between the State flags. My father collects the ones that our ancestors have followed under, and I just collect War Between the State flags. I love my dad is the real expert, bless his heart. He has 2 boxes, and a lot of them are from actual Beauregard's Tailor, our previous sponsor. So check them out. Again, check out the lovely women of the UDC at the museum at Market Hall. They're doing some great work. I can't wait to have y'all on the show. It was great to do our interview. Oh, gosh, it's been over a year or 2 now. And y'all have always been great supporters, and we're happy that you're all sponsors. Thank you. How's the forecast looking in Mississippi? Weibo is heating up. It was 81 today, getting out of the cold. And yeah, please don't forget the AOT workshop / reunion, May 2nd. You can see where that is in Alabama. I'm not even trying. Not even trying, Carl. Of course, for more information, I can mess with Carl. Contact Army of Tennessee Commander Carl Jones. He doesn't have anything to do. He's not working. Contact Carl. I'm going to get a text from that. And it's good to see everybody. Thank you all to our wonderful sponsors for sponsoring this episode. We're going to be right back after this commercial break with our special guest of the evening, candidate for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Charles Lauret.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost. Stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
That commercial break always makes me smile. And in defense, Carl, we all know my pronunciation skills are awful. Poor Charles learned that the first time he was on the show, and I butchered his last name. So I just didn't want to try it. Also have Miss Stacy ask me what the weather's like. Y'all were getting me. So real quick, I want to give a bit of an introduction. Please, everybody, welcome Charles A. He is running for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief. And we got some questions for him. How you doing tonight, Mr. Charles? 1 second. Unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted on my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
But I can't hear you.
This is going to be interesting then.
Wow, I was hoping this wouldn't happen. Yeah, I can't hear you. I can hear you on my laptop, but not on my phone.
Huh.
And so now we have an echo.
Try refreshing your phone and exiting out on the computer.
Okay, how is that? No, that's still an echo. So what did you suggest again?
Refresh your phone and exit out on the computer.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Things happen. Funny enough, there was no problems when we were getting everything set up for tonight, so I don't know what happened. But it's good to see Todd. From the California Division, of course, California Division Commander. How about now, Mr. Lauret?
Okay. That's good. That's good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Well, I gave you a pretty good introduction while you were gone. You know, the all the bells and whistles. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate you pronouncing my name correctly.
I try. All right, Mr. Lauret, I guess the first question we ask everybody on these interviews is first, tell us a bit about yourself and your SCV career.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I can hear you. All right, we're good then. We're good. Okay, so everybody, I appreciate you allowing me to be here tonight. For those who don't know me, my name is Charles Lauret. Like I said, again, I appreciate you pronouncing my name correctly. I think we've interacted long enough that it should come naturally now, right?
It does now, thankfully.
Well, good. So, again, I'm a candidate for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief in Lexington in July in Kentucky. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here tonight and talk a little bit about myself and answer some of y'all's questions. Just to tell a little bit about myself, I am originally a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I actually live about an hour and a half west of Baton Rouge now in the country, in the land of my mother and my grandmother and grandparents on my maternal side. But I am 58 years old. I'll be 59 in May, and married, 32 years, children, grandchildren. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, served in 1985 to 1989, and actually didn't see any kind of combat of any kind, but I like to chalk that up to our commander-in-chief at the time, Ronald Reagan. Nobody messed with the United States at the time, so I guess I can be thankful for that. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, got a degree in criminal justice and got into law enforcement and did approximately 28 years and just retired in 21. But to get to my SCV experience, so I've always been interested in the war between the states. I actually, my father was an insurance agent in Baton Rouge, and when I was 7 years old, he decided to take a job in the insurance capital of the world, which was Hartford, Connecticut, and lived there from when I was 7 till I was 16 years old. And I get ribbed about that a lot, and but I like to tell people I was a POW up there. So, but it was a good upbringing, especially being around a lot of the Revolutionary War sites and things like that. But so I kind of lost my train of thought. But no, just to say, so, but I eventually, after my time in the Marine Corps, I always wanted to come back to Louisiana. Louisiana was always my home. I missed my grandparents and my family terribly. We'd come back every 2 years on vacation and missed them terribly. But I knew that I had a kind of a distinct connection to the South. And actually, it was my 8th grade teacher in Connecticut in history that encouraged my interest in the war between the states. Matter of fact, he gave me his personal set of Bruce Catton's Army of the Potomac. And man, that really got me going. And eventually Marine Corps career, raising a family. But it was finally, I had a friend of mine here locally asked me if I was interested in joining the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And I'd always been interested, just really didn't know how. And so I was able to join. I joined a headquarters camp here in Louisiana. And immediately that same friend asked me to help form a camp in Opelousas. And, I had no idea what I was doing, but I certainly wanted to be involved and get that going and have something here locally, because we didn't have a camp here in the Opelousas area. So I helped form the Mouton Camp. We actually resurrected an old number, 778, but we did after General Mouton because he was born in Opelousas. And so I started the camp, started off as a lieutenant commander. Within a year, I was elected commander after the commander stepped down. And within a few years, I was elected a brigade commander. Within 7 years, I was elected Louisiana division commander after serving as first lieutenant commander of the Louisiana division. And in 2010, after finishing my tenure as Louisiana division commander, Commander-in-Chief Givens asked me to come on as a chief aide de camp. So I served on his staff. 2012 to 2014, I was elected as ATM Councilman. Followed that up with Army of Trans-Mississippi Commander. And then past Commander-in-Chief Tom Strain saw something in me, and being from Alabama, and we really didn't know much about each other, but he gave me the opportunity to serve as his chief of staff. So I served him for 2 years, and his replacement was past Commander-in-Chief Paul Gramling, and he asked me to stay on. So I was able to serve 2 tenures as Commander-in-Chief. And in 2020, took a little break. 2022, I came back on the General Executive Council as Army of Trans-Mississippi Councilman, and then took another break. And here we are in 2026. I announced my candidacy for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief prior to the Houston reunion last year. And I tell you what, since November, I've been burning up the roads, putting some miles on my little Honda Civic, and really getting out there and visiting and as I can. So it's been really good. So that's a little bit about me and my SCV story.
Well, it sounds like a crazy trip. SCV careers are a fun time, and it sounds like you've had your share. I do think we need a mental test while you're asking for more. But with that, I guess the next question, what motivated you to run for Lieutenant Commander in Chief?
Well, so like I said, I took a break, and during that time, basically during 2024 and into 2025, I thought seriously about how much more I could do for the organization. I felt like I could provide more, do more, and after having retired, it just seemed like a logical thing to do. My wife came on board with me. It had always been kind of something in the background. Something that I talked about, but things didn't line up at the time, but they lined up, and I felt like last spring was I finally decided I was going to make a decision to jump back on the General Executive Council. But it was it's not so much about being back on the council. I'm not just running for a position to get back on the council. The Lieutenant Commander in Chief is a lot more important than that. I'm running specifically for a job. I'm looking specifically to serve the Sons of Confederate Veterans and the membership in a position where I can have a significant impact on the organization in the future and direction of the SCV. And I definitely feel like I have a lot to bring to the table with my resume. My resume speaks for itself, and I think I can be a strong candidate. And if elected, be a strong Lieutenant Commander in Chief for the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
All right. You said it. There's a lot of challenges in this position. So what are some of the most pressing challenges facing the Sons of Confederate Veterans and today, and how would you plan to address them?
Well, okay. But besides the many attacks and the continued, issues we have dealing with defending our heritage on a daily basis, it's out there. Everybody knows it's recruiting and retention, and it's a tough job. We're a nonprofit, historical, genealogical, and basically a volunteer organization, and it's difficult. A lot of the same organizations deal with the same issue, recruiting and retention. There's a lot of divided attention these days, and we especially have a harder fight, basically because of who we represent. Knowing that we're on the defense a lot. Of course, I'm all about the offense, but they're always attacking our history, our heritage, our Confederate ancestors. So that makes it even more challenging. And I got to say, more than any other organization, we have to do a lot more to lure members or people to join our organization. But if you've had a chance, I've got a website. It's lauretfordixie.com, and there you can find my battle plan. But my battle plan includes targeted outreach via social media to deal with these issues of recruiting and retention. This involves using Facebook, Instagram, X, as well as YouTube. School outreach, doing programs. I realize it's really hard to get in schools these days. That was something that we found easy to do when I first started the Mouton Camp. Of course, it's not as easy as it used to be. But if we can encourage getting into schools and teaching our history, that's important. It's always been my position. So, we want people to join our organization. We want men to join our organization. And apart from finding out if they have a Confederate ancestor, if they don't have an interest in the war between the states or the war for Southern independence, that's a disconnect. So it's important that we, try to get back into schools. I'm looking at trying to put together a committee and we've got some great teachers in our organization, teachers both active and retired, and possibly to put a committee together and put a Southern heritage and history module that we can, especially push out to our homeschoolers and private schools, because it's especially difficult to get into public schools. We all understand that, but anytime you can get your foot in the door, I feel like that's really important. Providing tools to camps, that's really important for helping recruiting and retention, and I can touch on a little bit of that later on. Pressing issues, challenges with our organization is communication. Having served on the GEC, I've always seen that, and it's, not something, we push, get the emails, put your emails out there so we can contact everybody, but it's just not as easy as it seems. But I'd like to encourage Army and division level officers to really make sure that they make a concerted effort to push that information down to the camps. I mean, that's all. The national and the commander-in-chief and I can, or the lieutenant commander-in-chief has some important things going on, and we push that down to the Army commanders, the Army councilmen, and we just need to encourage them to make sure that they are getting that information down. I also suggest maybe using apps, group text, like GroupMe. Matter of fact, we use that in my Knights of Columbus Council. I'm an active member of the Knights of Columbus, and we use the GroupMe app, and we get all the information, keeps us up to date on meetings and activities and things like that. So that would be something I would recommend to camps to use to make sure they're keeping their members up to date. Again, like I said, that would really kind of only work at the camp level, but that's still something that I would encourage. Sharing events and news more on the telegraph. I understand people don't want to get bombarded on emails, but I think we could do a better job announcing events and important issues that are going on the SCV chat. And also, there's been talk about updating our website. That's been going on a while, and hoping there's some headway being made. And if I'm elected Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to make sure that whatever efforts were being made to update our website are being done, because that's really important. My battle plan also, going back to social media, we have social media sites and accounts that I just feel like could be utilized better and more thoroughly. Matter of fact, I'd like to put together a team that is knowledgeable, is tech savvy, and willing to serve as admins and contribute to turn this around to make our social media more active and up to date, and not just kind of ghost accounts. So that's what I'd like to do to address the pressing issues that we face today.
I will say website kind of threw me off, because it is a very important thing. If your website is actually not up to date, it can hurt you in getting out on Google searches for people to look us up. As I said on one episode, I'm going into and learning about marketing online, and I have been shocked at how important a website is. So I am glad to hear that. And of course, being a big social media guy, of course, I love hearing about social media. But
yeah, you mentioned the digital marketing, and you indicated that you're going to school for that again, or you're kind of getting back into school and studying that. I think that's really important. We need to find ways online to sell our organization, because, like I said, again, I mentioned we fight an uphill battle. So we need to use every resource that we possibly can.
I couldn't agree more. And that kind of actually goes to the next question regarding public perception of our organization. how would you plan to navigate potential controversies and criticisms surrounding the Sons of Confederate Veterans?
Wow, that's a good one. So, it's interesting, and I want to touch on something. When I first started the camp, again, I was only a member. When I joined the SCV, I joined a headquarters camp, which was basically just a headquarters camp. Mm-hmm. It was like a camp in name only. It was a place to kind of, put people in membership, get them to join where they didn't have a camp that was close by. And so, I was glad to help form a camp that was more local to me. And I tell you what, I helped organize our first Confederate Memorial Day ceremony, and I'll be darned if it didn't spark a serious heritage violation that I had to address. Matter of fact, I think on my Facebook page, I like to throw out Throwback Thursday hashtag TBT things that I've done in my past as a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I posted a picture of the newspaper article where I actually got up in front of the parish council, or it's kind of, we call it parish council. We're parishes here in Louisiana. For those that don't know, they're the equivalent to counties in any other state. So, I had to get up there, and that was a controversy that I didn't know how to navigate, but I got out there and did it. And so that's really important, being able to address those issues that come up. But so part of my battle plan includes protection of our symbols, and by extension, the memory of our ancestors and the organization as a whole. This plan also includes, preservation and protection and defense of our history. All of these things include relentless fight to speak up and make sure that we address criticisms of the SCV and our ancestors, and I'm willing to do that and stand by the Commander-in-Chief to do that. I'll work closely with the Chief of Heritage Defense and the Commander-in-Chief to ensure that we're all on the same page, given any input that I possibly can, and help in addressing issues that may pop up. That means assisting in preparing press releases, things like that. And my stance in our heritage fights and defending our organization and our ancestors in any criticisms include bringing the fight to those who pick a fight with us. It's like, instead of fighting them on our ground, push back and fight on their ground. Flipping the script on them, saying, well, why would you ask me a question like that? If it's negative, or basically the same old as far as, your ancestors fought for slavery and things like that. I'd be willing to flip the script on them. And, why are you even asking that? And where do you get your information from? So that's a little bit about, how I would help our organization navigate issues that come up like that.
Well, that is, again, that's one of those questions I really like hearing the answer to, because in today's modern age, I say potential in the question, but it's almost a guarantee. So I like hearing that.
Yeah.
And now we get into more specific questions for your office. If you to be elected, you would be chairman of the Recruiting and Retention Committee. You talked about a couple of your strategies. If you'd like to dive in specifically, what specific strategies would you implement to grow membership?
Okay. Well, at first, I'd like to ensure that, plans for a more improved, user-friendly, and inviting website, and follow through with the administration. I know I touched on this already, and there be some kind of duplicity in my answers, but these things kind of fall in line with each other. But again, I want to make sure that we have an improved and user-friendly website. Without that, we're just stagnant. I'd like to revitalize.
Mr. Charles, can you hear me?
You there? Yeah, I lost you for a second. Okay.
Yes, sir. Just go back a smidge. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'd like to revitalize the cadet program. Man, it really started off strong. But I know, even 22 to 24, when I was on the council as a ATM councilman, Adam Southern, the executive director, would provide information on numbers. And the cadet program started off strong, and the numbers slowly dwindled. So I'd like to encourage just to try to build that back up. I'd like to form, as a matter of fact, I'd like to try to form a committee of youngsters, of young members of the SCV, to have more input on how the cadet program operates. And also targeting 30 to 50-year-olds, putting together a committee of members of that age group that can provide and help me with better ideas on how to reach them and encourage them to join.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the big one. I see my other screen. So just so y'all know, I'm working off of two screens just because I'm on my phone, but then I've got the stream on my laptop so I can see better because my phone's so small. But anyway, that's where I'm coming from as far as that goes. But so it threw me off a second because I lost my connection. But other things I'd like to do, targeted outreach by using social media. Again, I'm going to harp on that a lot. When we started the Mouton Camp, there was no such thing as social media. So, it was basically just kind of word of mouth, sending letters, postcards, applications out, and things like that. But, we need to use targeted outreach and digital media and using that to keep our pages active. I'd like to share a portion of my, if I were to be elected, I would like to share a portion of my budget to form a grant program to provide funds to camps and divisions, to buy banners for your tent at a festival or fair or something like that, or even marching in a parade or something like that. That would definitely help with recruiting efforts. Making available generic recruiting cards with QR codes, because we got to the point where nobody wants to hand out something with their personal phone number or anything like that. So we can put QR codes with the that link to the website, and also make available promotional videos and resources. And one thing I used to have on my vehicle was the 1-800 number bumper sticker. I'd like to see those come back, and also make those available in magnetic form. Just some people just don't want to put bumper stickers on their vehicles, and then I've seen it before. It pops up. We have members that are in jobs that are sensitive to that, and regardless of how much we hate it and want to fight against it, they can stop having an SCV logo on their vehicle. So if we can get some magnets that have our 1-800 number that they can drive around with. I don't see myself. Can you see me?
No, sir, we cannot.
Let's see. Uh-oh. Not sure how I lost my connection. I just have a blank screen.
Just hit refresh again, and it should restart us. Sorry about that. Again, a live show, you're going to run into that type of stuff. Okay,
I see.
It
just kicks me out after a time.
No, sir. There something must be wrong with our connection. I'll see if I can approve that in the background.
All righty. You don't remember where I was at when you last heard me?
You had just stopped where you were at, talking about recruitment material for the camps, QR codes, stuff like that.
in the bumper sticker and the magnets?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Well, good. And like I said, encouraging sharing knowledge among all levels to recruiting and retention efforts. We best practices. I got to, and I've said this in other places. I got to hand it. I'm very impressed with the Tennessee Division's recruiting and retention manual, and we should all be happy to share the things that we put together, and things that work really good for us. We should be willing to share those across the Confederation. So I'd like to see that, things that are working, make them available to everybody across the Confederation. I'd like to encourage membership and push more for the Friends of the SCV. That's always great and always helpful, especially to, just have supporters and keep them clued in on what we're doing, and also bring in some funds to help our organization as well. Work closely with the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Children of the Confederacy. I think, we can do more to tap into the CFC and encourage their eventual membership in the Sons of Confederate Veterans. But I don't know, finally, school programs, forming a committee of, again, the teachers that can put together a module that can get us into schools and whatnot. I think that would be a big help as well.
I couldn't agree more on those. You did speak my interest with the 30 and 50 crowd. Of course, with me soon being in the 30 crowd, to my dismay, it does warm my heart. We're trying to do something similar here in Mississippi. And of course, I have a big love for the cadet program. I was the 7th cadet.
I lost you. Let's see.
I was 7th cadet in the SCV. Again, sorry about the technical issues, everybody. I'll see what I can do to help out, but let's see here. Not really showing me much. Oh, can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay. I'm not hearing you though.
The joys of a live show, everybody. The joys of a live show. We'll see what we can do here.
I can get on my laptop here. Let's see. Moose, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure I can't hear you.
Let's see here.
How about that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. And there's no echo, because I'm hearing you off my laptop this time, which is not my phone. Am I echoing?
Just a little bit, but I might have a solution. Let me. All right, I have a solution. We'll take turns talking. That will cancel out the echo. But I'll go ahead and jump into the next question for you then. Let's see where I am. What do you think are some primary reasons people fail to renew their membership? And what would you do to address those concerns?
Moose, I wanted to bring something up, but it's echoing if I don't. Yeah, it's still echoing. Now I'm echoing because I can't hear you on my phone. And if I mute you on my laptop, I can't hear you on my phone.
Let's try something. Let me
just wanted to touch on something.
Real quick. is your computer allowing audio from that end? We could use your computer for audio, and that could cancel out the try talking.
Hey, testing.
Hey, there we go.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before you move on, I wanted to, all this technical difficulty, but hey, it's all good. Everybody, we'll get through it. But I wanted to touch on the 30 to 50-year-olds. The dynamics in family and career are changing rapidly. So I think, people that graduate from high school and they immediately want to go into starting a career and then eventually start a family. So that basically 24 to kind of 35-ish, 40 years old, they're busy starting that family and building that career, and they're distracted. I get it, and like I said, they have concerns about joining an organization that is vilified in the media and things like that. So, looking at those videos that we've done in the past, the promotional videos that we show, and I think touching on the fact that when people reach that age, when they've established that family and finally are setting that career, which is later now than it has been, that we can start in sad as it is, they see the passing away of their grandparents, of their parents, of their great grandparents. And when they see that triggers, it possibly triggers an interest in genealogy and their family history. So I'd like to see possibly put together promotional videos that touch on those heartstrings that hit on people that say, I'm losing members of my family that I've been close to, and I want to know more about them and my ancestors that came before them. So I think targeting them with that kind of interest, when they see, when they kind of those heartstrings are tugged by passings in the family and things like that, that would be a real beneficial way to target men of that age.
I agree. I tell everybody I'm crazy. That's the whole reason I'm in this. But I can't agree more. The 30-40 cadet crowd. Again, both of those mean a lot to me as a former cadet, and again as someone who is knocking on 30. And I love hearing the idea of the Children of the Confederacy. That's something I actually wanted to. That I thought of in Mississippi, not to your extent, but I wanted to see us do something with them. So again, great stuff, Mr. Lauret. And so the next question would be, what do you believe are some primary reasons members are failing to renew their membership, and what would you do to address those concerns? Okay.
So, my position on that is, as much as national can help recruiting and retention, it's ultimately up to the camps to keep our members interested in being members of our organization and getting the most out of their membership. It's important that that national stays on point when addressing, especially things that pop up on the national and world stage, as it were, to make sure that that our organization stays on point in fulfilling our mission. But if camp members don't see that on the ground level, they're going to lose interest. So ultimately, the onus is on the camps, and I just feel like no matter what national does, what they see in their local camps is the most important thing that'll keep them interested in staying members and renewing their membership. I can just I just have to say that I will encourage, active camp meetings that are engaging activities, cemetery cleanups, field trips to historic sites, to rallies and things like that. But one of the biggest things that probably result in disengagement, again, and I've kind of mentioned it earlier, is lack of communication. And honestly, like I said, I'll admit, I've been I was on the GEC basically since 2012 to 2020, and then for an additional 2 years. And we sit on that board, we sit on that council, and we mentioned that, and it's definitely something that's tough. But emails are just not cutting it. We try to encourage everybody to sign up their emails for the Telegraph, but I'm not sure what the percentage is of members that are signed up for the Telegraph, but I don't think that it's where it needs to be. But sadly, email seems to be going by the wayside like postal mail. So again, that goes back to text groups or other apps that keep our members up to date. But then again, I understand, and that we have members that don't have smartphones, that don't do email, so we can't overlook them. So on the camp level, I would encourage camp commanders and other camp officers to make sure that they reach out to camp members that don't do email. Call them. They at least probably still have a phone, even if it's a landline. Call them and just check in on them. Let them know what's going on. Postage prohibits a lot of camps from doing mail out newsletters. And so again, they're turning to digital newsletters. But what about the members that don't do email or on computers at all? So, we need to make sure we're looking out for our members that have been members for a long time and don't engage digitally. And another thing, and I actually got this from a member of after I visited the Knoxville camp and spoke at their camp meeting in January. He said, you get people to join, they join, and then they just kind of drop off. But what are we doing to find out why? What happened to them? Is it a health issue? Or whatever the case might be. So I would encourage camps to, definitely reach out to members that don't renew. And, like I said, it might be financial issues or something like that. Maybe the camp can help them work through that. But at least at a minimum, a phone call, but even better, a visit in person. And again, I'm talking about stuff on the camp level. But as a national officer, I would encourage all these things to help in our fight to increase recruiting and retention.
All right, Commander. And we only got 4 questions left, everybody. So we are not going to be able to do any audience questions. I saw some good ones in there, but we just won't be able to get to them with the time level. But I think I have enough great questions to hopefully keep you all interested. Speaking of which, you've talked a lot tonight about generations, 30s, 40s, 50s, and of course, the majority of this organization are in their 60s and 70s. How would you encourage multi-generational involvement to ensure the long-term stability of the SCV?
Wow, that's a good question. It kind of goes back first. I would work at revitalizing the cadet corps and encouraging cadets to become more active and improving, what they get out of it. My son went straight out of the Children of the Confederacy into the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So he wasn't a member of the cadet corps. But I just think if we're not asking them what they'd like to see, then we're not making a good connection with them, and I think that would help us build the core back up. Encouraging leadership training, youth leadership training in the camp. Kind of make them feel involved and stuff like that. Matter of fact, we have chief aide de camp and aides de camp on the national level. Why can't camps do that? The commander should be able to say, hey, son, or, ask a fellow member, hey, would your son be interested in being an aide de camp for me as camp commander? And man, that would make him feel special. That would make him feel involved. And so that would be something that would help in that issue. And a lot of these things are in my battle plan, in my platform, but I like to call it my battle plan. It's, I'm aggressive in what I'd like to see done and what I'd like to do if I were elected lieutenant commander in chief. Another thought I have is mentorship. So you've got your senior members and your junior members, maybe kind of tag team, partner up senior members and junior members of the camp and have a little bit of mentorship going on. So, those senior members can tell those junior members how important it is to maintain their membership and, just be more involved and stuff like that. And that would, that's definitely generational to help those junior members stay members of our organization. Projects that we can do for the youngsters, encourage them to do interview family members for documenting oral histories. Man, I regret, and I didn't do it, with my grandparents. And man, I wished I'd had, is sit down and talk to them. And what do you remember about of course, it would have been my, they might not remember the Confederate ancestors, but they might have remembered stories that their grandparents told them about what their Confederate ancestor did. And I think that would be a great little project to engage our young members. And finally, encouraging family activities. We always want to make sure family members are invited to camp meetings. Some maybe not, if there's business or whatever, but for the most part, always engage our families and the young children to our camp meetings, and also outside the meeting room, family picnics and other activities like that.
Wow. I'm going to have to make sure that you haven't went into my wish book, Mr. Charles, because that is a phenomenal answer to that question, something that I've been wanting to hear for a long time. The involvement of our next generations, just wow is all I have to say. That is a phenomenal answer to that question.
Thank you, Moose.
You've left me speechless, and that's pretty hard to do. But you have probably talked more about digital platforms and modern tools than I have heard in my time in the SCV. So the next question for you would be, how would you use digital platforms and modern communication tools to improve the outreach of this organization?
Well, so again, I invite people to check out my website, lauretfordixie.com, where they can find my battle plan that is all about the use of digital platforms and modern communications, as many of you may already know. Not everybody uses social media, but millions do. So we just need to do a better job of using it. And I think I touched on that in the past. We could definitely do a better job at that. And if I were to be elected, that would be my main focus in making better use of social media, digital platforms, and also digital marketing. Since I started my campaign, I started up a campaign Facebook page. X and Instagram. Hadn't really seen a lot of interaction on X, but hey, I'm out there. I'm using it. And I know this SCV has a YouTube page. We can make better use of these. And I'd like to put together a committee that stays engaged with these platforms and ensuring, that we push out more consistent, compelling, and better content. And eventually this would hopefully trigger algorithms that are more in our favor than are out there right now, because I'll be darned. I mean, if you type in anything about the Confederacy or the Sons of Confederate Veterans, or try to get them to generate a picture about the Sons of Confederate Veterans or something having to do with the Confederacy, oh no, that violates our rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you, like I said, or just the regular Joe Blow that decides he's might be interested in an organization, they're going to get bombarded with negative stuff too. And that's because of the algorithms that are out there now. But I think if we get out there more positively, that eventually we could overcome that. But again, I'd like to put together a committee of volunteers, of those that are willing to at least serve as admins on our social media pages, and make sure that people are seeing that we're out there. Because, there's no sense in having a digital page. Hey, one sec. Let me hook up my phone because my battery just showed a low deal. Let me plug that in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I might have to hold it here. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, sir. That's good.
Feel good? Okay. All right. Yeah, I've got to hold it. But anyway, but no more ghost accounts. It doesn't pay to put together and form a social media platform if you're not engaged on it. So I'd like to see more engagement on that. Using hashtags when posting events. A while back, I started a hashtag campaign, #RecruitSCV. But it doesn't even have to be that. But, I encourage all camps and members to use a hashtag when you're posting on Facebook or Instagram. Use the hashtag, and that way it links all of our posts, events, and everything we're doing together. I really think that's important. So I encourage that. Again, text groups, group me for camp level communications. And look, I don't consider myself a computer geek. My son got his degree in computer science, so I'm always tapping on him to help me. But I'm always willing to learn, and I know the future of our organization is making better use of social media, and that's where I want to take our organization.
I couldn't agree more. So I'm happy to hear it, Mr. Charles. As I said, we're on our last two questions. And this is one I have specifically for you. How does your service in the military and law enforcement qualify you to be Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief, or help you in being Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief?
Well, and I appreciate that question. And, my answer might stun everybody, but actually it doesn't necessarily. I'm a proud Marine Corps veteran, and I learned a lot. It helped mold me into the man I am today. But honestly, it built upon the character that was instilled in me by my parents. My dad was a strict disciplinarian. And of course I didn't appreciate it at the time. But what he did to me and my brothers to ensure that we were disciplined and acted right, that's very important. But the Marine Corps only helped build upon that foundation that my parents instilled in me. But my duty in the Marine Corps instilled in me discipline, courage in the face of adversity. And that goes back to how do we stand up to adverse situations that affect the sons of Confederate veterans, and also teamwork. And as far as being a police officer, for the many years, it taught me pretty much the same thing, especially how to deal diplomatically with the public. I appreciate the fact that I was able to make it through my career without having any issues, with the public. And I always felt like that was, because I always dealt with the public as I know they wanted to be treated. My law enforcement career has taught me how to do that, dealing with the public, but also dealing with the private sector. I was a deputy commander involved in charting plans of action, managing and working a team. But I was also highly interactive with both the public and the private sector. So that's an important trait. But honestly, I go back to say that again, it helps, but it's actually not that important because, I honestly don't think that the general membership cares about what I did outside the SCV. Some do, especially my fellow Marines, the Semper Fi brothers.
Go Navy.
Sisters. It's what I've done in the SCV for over 25 years of service on the executive council, on the division level, on the camp level. The strength of my SCV resume is what sets me apart in this campaign, and I'm very proud of that. So to answer your question, I want people to focus more on my resume in the SCV than my service as a Marine or a law enforcement officer.
All right. Well, Mr. Charles, we have just one last question for you before we wrap up tonight. And again, I ask everybody, please share this episode out. Let's get as many eyes on this as possible, and do the same for part 2 when it comes out. And we talked about a lot about how recruiting and retention is extremely important for the SCV right now, how it is a fundamental problem that we are facing, a challenge we are facing. So with that being said, Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief is a very important position. Why are you the right person at this time, 2026, when membership is needing special care? Why are you the right person to be Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans?
Well, I got to say again, my resume of service to the Sons of Confederate Veterans and experience on all levels, starting at camp when I had no SCV experience at all, but experience on all levels of the Sons of Confederate Veterans has provided me with the insight and knowledge of the inner workings of the organization. Of all the offices I've served in, I got to say, serving 4 years as Chief of Staff for Commander-in-Chief Tom Strain and Commander-in-Chief Paul Gramling, I had a seat at the table when difficult decisions were being made, and having the trust and confidence of those commanders-in-chief that I served is invaluable. I was able to provide input during some serious situations. Of course, we'd always the GEC would always be made aware of what was going on, but for split-second talks and decisions and dealing with issues that affected our organizations, I was involved with those with Commander-in-Chief Gramling and Strain. I'm prepared to work with the Commander-in-Chief, whoever that may be, if I were to be elected, and that's very important. And I'm definitely ready to step into those shoes and serve them and help them with the experience and knowledge that I have as having served as the Chief of Staff, and having that exposure to the inner workings of the entire organization. is unbeatable. The moving parts. So my energy and dedication to work hard for this organization is and on every level of the SCV makes me your best choice to serve as a Lieutenant Commander in Chief. And I really hope that everybody takes the time to look at my resume and my experience and elect me as your Lieutenant Commander in Chief.
Well, thank you for coming on tonight, Mr. Charles Lauret. Lauret.
There you go. Yeah,
we
Lauret is not right.
Lauret
is not right. Lauret.
The whole episode. And
you did good.
I wanted to give you that. I felt like you earned that after tonight. You can give me something to mess around with next time me and you around the campfire. Just had to give you one. Of course, we talked about it some tonight. It's been scrolling across the screen, but Mr. Charles Lauret does have a website, Lauret4Dixie.com. Please go check that out and support him over there. And he said it tonight. He has a lot of stuff on social media. He's on a lot. Go check him out there. And again, we can't thank you enough for coming on tonight and doing this interview. And again, we wish you the best of luck to you and your opponent. This is something that I think stakes us apart here in the SCV. We are Southern gentlemen, and we can handle ourselves as such. And so wishing the best for both of y'all. Good luck, gentlemen. And again, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to share this episode out, and make sure to tune in next Monday at 7 p.m. Confederate Standard Time for your next weekly episode of SCV Chat. Tuesdays, we have Tennessee Tuesdays at 7 p.m. same time. Wednesdays, we have Look Around Florida, same time. Thursdays, of course, we'll be back with Look Around the Confederation. And, of course, Fridays at 8 p.m. Confederate Standard Time, we have the Friends of Douglas Southall Freeman. And Sunday, we have Hardy on History. Make sure to share this episode out, and make sure to email your pictures, your news to scvyouthoutreach@gmail.com, and you'll be featured on the upcoming episode of Look Around the Confederation. Thank you all for tuning in, and remember,
good night, everybody,
to stay Southern.
Thank y'all.